How hard is it psychologically to retire early and stop making the big bucks? For people who were making good money through their jobs and then fired, did you guys find it hard psychologically to give up on making the big bucks and stop the incoming cash flow? Personally, I feel that would be the most challenging for me, even after I have enough and reach my FIRE goal. It was hard. I knew we had enough. Our financial advisor really pushed me to retire and enjoy life. My wife had retired years before. I went part-time, then 3 hours a day contract for 2 to 3 years. I was getting paid to WFH, and the job was pretty easy. I just couldn't shake the feeling of make hay while the sun shines. Finally, my contract ended, and I had a choice of getting a new contract or just retiring. Wife told to just try retiring for 2 months. It's been 2 months. It's a lot easier now. This is one of the many reasons we're prioritizing Barista-Fi over full retiring. We think shifting to less work and using the extra time to build hobbies and relationships will be easier for us than just quitting cold turkey. Have you ever worked a customer service job? I always wonder when people say this. Oftentimes these jobs are just as stressful as where they came from. Barista-Fi doesn't literally mean work as a barista, FYI. You could do anything like work as a plant nursery hand. I just pictured Barista-Fi as also being in a spot where you can afford to bounce from position to position as the winds change and can easily take the time to find that new place to occupy your time and get benefits/spending money while the bills are still paid. My wife loves that. She said it's the happiest job she's been at. Everyone is always so happy to be there. I've worked food service 3 years, and I'd consider going back. I don't really get stressed out by shitty customers, and other stressful things about customer service jobs aren't universal. Plus, it's the type of stress that's easier for me to shake off and leave at work than office job-style stress. I was a kitchen supervisor for years after high school and worked in fast food while in high school. That experience made me go to school to get out of there and into this career. To this day, when I have a rough patch, I remind myself I am not there anymore and have it pretty good. So, IDK. Maybe it is not bad in some places, but for me, that shit is my hell. Directly after college, it took me a month or two to find work, and I had went back to kitchen work to make ends meet, and lasted a week before I got my offer and got out. Had I needed to stay, IDK, might have jumped in front of a bus, lol. Yup, restaurant work is physically and mentally exhausting. Sometimes I miss the fast pace and wild characters, but in no way enough to go back, lol. Fair enough, it's definitely not for everyone, and I may have just had better luck in the places that I worked. If they hate it, they give up in frustration and actually retire, perhaps with a new appreciation for service workers and their jobs. Win-win. I have worked a number of customer service jobs. There's not one where I would ever carry the burden of, if I don't figure out how to solve this problem, 200 hourly employees are going to miss a week of pay. Dealing with periodically cranky customers will never give me as much gray hair as working in supply chain or running a factory through COVID. I can say that with complete confidence. Yes, I have. However, I likely wouldn't be working in traditional customer service during Barista-Fi. My current freelance gig allows for a lot of flexibility in how much work I choose to do, and at least for now, I intend to continue doing it even after I leave my full-time job. As Efref Quoxono pointed out, Barista-Fi doesn't mean becoming a barista. What work you do is up to you. The name comes from companies like Caribou and Starbucks providing health insurance for part-time employees. Barista Fire must be the worst-worded fire variant. Whoever coined the term must have never worked on customer service. Anyway, it's stuck now. We all know what it means and rarely think about how strange it is to use word barista as a synonym for low-stress job. I thought the origin of that was that Starbucks gives decent benefits like health insurance so you can get that covered while waiting to retire. They probably thought of a small hippie coffee shop and not a Starbucks. Okay, thanks for explaining this to me. Ever since I heard the term, I've been confused. Even 4 hours a day as a barista sounds like hell. I see them hustle at Starbucks when it's busy, and it looks nothing like relaxing, easy work. Enormous difference that makes the situation incomparable. Usually, when you work a customer service job, you do so because you need to, which means you have to take much more shit than you would if you knew that you're sitting on a couple of mil. I was about to post the same thing. If it gets stressful, just quit and find another. I don't know about others, but the appeal of that type of job is not taking work home or even needing to think about work after hours. I'm going through this now with trying to pull the trigger next month, after delaying each of the last 4 quarters, living RSU vest to RSU vest. It's a hard hurdle to overcome, especially at high incomes. I'm potentially within 3 to 5 years, and I can totally see this happening. I'm fortunate enough to have a profession in which I can operate as an independent contractor if I want, although I never have. I'm thinking this ability might be enough to induce me to dip my toe in the fire pond closer to the 3-year range and see how I like the water. How old? 56, 52 when I went part-time. What were you doing and how'd you get to that point, if I may ask? I worked in IT for 30 years and this company for 14 when I asked to go part-time. I was a known quantity and well-respected in the company, so they made it happen. I am forever grateful to them for that. I have known people that went 60 miles per hour a day at their jobs to 0, fully retired, and the number of heart attacks and other health issues that followed was shocking. There needs to be a study on this. I really believe our bodies must produce some chemical mix to survive stress. And if you 100% remove that stress without downshifting, will flat out kill you. Downshifting gives the body time to adapt, make less of whatever that stress cocktail is. I am not a doctor, but I've seen this too many times. I deliberately downshifted and actually enjoyed the John those last couple of years. Thanks for insight. I'm in software engineering, although not FANG, so no crazy salary. Make about $130K. How much was yours when you retired? Oh, less than that. If I worked 40 hours, it would have been $150K a year. Again, I was working 15 to 24 hours a week, so more like 75 to 80K. But it was easy money, and we could live off it. And WFH, no commute, just log in and go. Log out after 3 to 4 hours and go back to relaxing. Very hard to give up, but I have to say, once you experience the sheer joy of having 0 fixed demands on your time life is just so enjoyable. I still had to plan around those 3 to 4 hours, had to be home, etc. I would often find myself 30 min out from work and not want to start anything because I just have to stop in 30 min. Now, all that is gone. It's all my time, and it is awesome. Awesome to hear. How much did you end up saving to get to this point? We own our house and have no debt. Investments are north of 3 million. Our financial advisor. Why doesn't he retire then? Surely the person advising you must have more than you, LOL. That's definitely not how the world works. Once you achieve your retirement goal number, you are selling your time for money you won't ever use. At that point, the money earned is worth nothing, while the time you sold you'll never get back. Took me a long time to figure this out. In practice, I think the challenge is in being confident about what your retirement goal is. Especially if your income is still large enough relative to your net worth, 1 more year could easily mean being able to afford an extra expensive vacation every year or the like. Add in uncertainty about withdrawal rate, 3, 3.5, 4% are quite different, and it can be hard to pull the plug. For me, I think it's likely I'll pull the ripcord and retire this year, but this is in part because my employer is having layoffs, and that is never pleasant. Had an anxiety dream about being laid off and screwed out of severance this morning. Thanks. That is really well said. I'm stealing it for the next time a former coworker asks me when I'm going to come back. I'm working for the amazing trusts we're funding. It's akin to self-actualization. Day 9 is 365. Work sucks, but retirement was impossible to imagine. Day 90. Work really sucks, but thanks to FI, retirement was in the realm of possibility. Day 60. Openly discussing immediate fire with so. Day 30. Discussing fire with my boss. Please make my job, please make my job redundant. Fuck, what have I done? Day plus 90. Bye-bye NQSOs. Day plus 182. This is fucking awesome. Day plus 365. What was all the anxiety about? Year 3. Best decision ever. Should have negotiated for extended exercisable on the NQSOs. But otherwise, love this. Good suggestion. I didn't consider negotiating for that. Yeah, NQSO exercisability can be extended, while ISOs cannot be extended beyond 90 days. It's not widely known and most people don't negotiate for it. Personally, not hard at all, but we had a nice psychological boost from our workplace going to hell. We were blissful to leave. More generally, very hard for many people, but it's quite variable. I've talked with many people who have gone back to work because of a loss of identity, community, or purpose. I've also known couples that experienced serious relationship stress when their daily lives were no longer separated, defined by employment. Some folks go back to work or get high-hour volunteer gigs just to maintain their relationship. Spending 2 to 3 hours each day with someone is a much different experience than spending most of your hours each day with them. Even focusing on purely the financial psychology, it can be very difficult to go from a lifetime of saving diligently to spending down those assets, even if your portfolio keeps growing. It often takes many people a year or two to get over the general financial anxiety of reversing the normal cash flows they have become deeply habituated, comforted by. I'd say it's a challenge on par with having kids or getting married, divorced, or a long period of unwanted unemployment. It's a major state change, and nobody can really say exactly how they will respond to it until they actually experience it. I think people focus overly much on the financial aspects of FIRE, which are pretty straightforward and comparatively easy, and less so on the psychological, emotional, pragmatic aspects, which are hugely personal and often difficult to define. Retirees, early or not, often find retirement to be less idyllic than they expected it to be. Retirees, wrong early or not wrong, often find retirement to be less idyllic than they expected it to be. This is one thing I keep coming back to when people talk about filling their time, losing their income, etc. One day, health willing, we're all going to retire and have to make that big adjustment. Arguably, it could be much easier to adjust in your 40s when you still have energy to do more things, are full of ideas, are less set in your ways, and possibly have kids at home that take up a lot of time already, than when you're a typical 65-year-old empty nester calling it quits. I agree wholeheartedly. Being younger usually means greater flexibility in lots of important ways. For anyone who wants to have a family, I think both a partner and kids make the transition a lot easier, if only because they provide a robust external structure to your existence, completely separate from your career. The people who seem to really end up on the rocks in retirement are often the hardcore, career-driven folks who invested a lot of their self-definition in their work. Some people are absolutely happiest when working, and for those folks, the RE portion of FIRE can be seriously dangerous. That's why ar.reddit.com/r/financial independence/comments58j8pc/build the life you want, then save for it. Build the life you want, then save for it is in the sidebar. Too many people save with the only goal being to stop working and no plan what to do when the work is done. People need to retire to something, not from something. Even saying doing nothing is fine as long as you're honest with yourself and know that doing nothing will be fulfilling enough. If you have no idea of how you'll spend your time in retirement, might as well keep working. I definitely agree with this. Being idle in retirement is not a good thing. I love every second of it. Same. I also hugely enjoy being married and having lots of kids. Never got to try the unwanted unemployment, but I suspect I wouldn't have enjoyed that one. Serious relationship stress when their daily lives were no longer separated, defined by employment. Some folks go back to work or get high-hour volunteer gigs just to maintain their relationship. Spending 2 to 3 hours each day with someone is a much different experience than spending most of your hours each day with them. LOL. Well, that is quite the ringing endorsement for the institution of marriage. Young people, listen, it would be a poor choice to marry someone you want out of your house 14 plus hours of the day. I mean, it's hard to know, though, if you spend most of your life out of the house 14 hours a day, whether such a radical shift will be enjoyable to you or not. And honestly, spending that much time with anyone sounds hellish to me. I don't think wanting alone or just separate time invalidates the entire concept of marriage. It doesn't have to involve marriage, merely a lasting relationship. I don't think it's anything about the institution of marriage itself, but more the large shift between two different stages of life. Some couples are happy together in spite of only having moderate time together most days, whereas others are happy because of that. Either can be a hugely beneficial and happy existence. The trick is just being honest about it and acting accordingly. One isn't necessarily better than the other as long as everyone is happy. I'm not personally in that situation, but I have a friend who is. He basically is in golden handcuffs because he will not leave his job even though he has plenty of money to do so and doesn't like his job at all. He's just paid too well to give it up, in his words. Rest and vest. I'm also somewhat golden handcuffed, and my plan after FI is to get progressively lazier until I'm pipped and then retire. The job itself is fun and chill enough when not dependent on it, and I could probably coast for a year or two by working 15 to 20 hours a week. No promos or raises, of course. The funny part about this is there are roles you can put in 15 hours a week at and still never get piped. Ask me how I know, haha. I think I have too much pride to ever go through that process personally, and I work at what used to be a small startup and personally know the founders, so it would be a tough thing to try for me. But if I was at some big, faceless public company, I would do it in a heartbeat. Because who cares? This is my general plan as well. With a little luck, you may also get severance. What is PIPed? Performance Improvement Plan. They give you 6 months to improve or they fire you. Got it. They usually tell me my billable hours suck, and I tell them to go for themselves. Lawyer, I feel this. Yep, burnt out lawyer here. They can't get rid of me, BC. I do things that no one else is willing to do. But I plan on coast or barista fire in 3 years if I don't lose my mind first. Me. What are some potential jobs you're considering? BH, my hope is to just work less at my current job and hopefully do less of the trial work. I could probably live on 1/3 of my present salary, so when I hit my number, I hope I can just cut back. Other than that, I've thought about a low-cost lifestyle teaching English overseas. I also joke I could be happy as a park ranger. Reality is I will probably be a part-time lawyer for 5+ years if I can. I taught English abroad for a year before law school, and it was awesome. Are the "your billable hours suck" conversations stressful for you? Good to know. Where did you teach? I've recently been very busy and cranking the hours, but when they are on my ass, it is definitely stressful. But I'm not really in any real danger of losing my job. In southern Spain, I know inflation has taken its toll recently, but for quality of life and how far your money can go, I don't think there's a better option. Think big pints of delicious Spanish beer for 2 to 4 euros. That is low-key my dream, to just teach, cover my expenses. Spain. Reach out with any questions. Awesome, thanks. So I won't ask you a million questions, but I'm curious. In which city did you live? How old were you at the time? Monthly income and expenses? Much appreciated. Depending on the company, there are some that will tell you that you can either try to meet the PIP requirements or offer a voluntary separation agreement that includes severance. This sounds nice, but I just am not able to let go and stop doing what needs to be done. My corporate culture has gone down the drain and bonuses are cut, so even the allure of a good bonus is gone. However, I have a team that I care about, colleagues I care about, and no way I would want to go out with a tattered reputation. I did this at a job after our startup got acquired, and the new leadership was obviously clueless and going to run the place into the ground. I had no plans to stay, but had some earnout coming my way and wanted to witness the place fall apart under its new inept C-suite. I dialed it back to showing up for meetings, doing an hour or two a week on stuff I cared about, and the rest of the time I'd just do laundry or go for a walk or whatever, working from home. 18 months passed and I still had a job. Finally, my wife asked me, "Weren't you going to quit that place?" and pointed out that she thought I'd gotten more sour since I'd shifted gears, so I put in my 2 weeks. To my shock, they were surprised and upset that I was leaving, despite having coasted for well over a year. When I am ready to retire, I think I'm going to give this another try, with the condition that I'm not either standing in somebody else's way or doing harm to the careers of others through my sloth. No amount of money is worth being unhappy 5/7 of your week. I just don't get that mentality. In the battle of time versus money, I already don't have enough time, so what good is more money going to do? Buy a vacation home I can't stay in because I work 48 weeks a year? I feel handcuffed too, but it's more that I'm one of the founders of a business and I can't just up and leave without causing some jolts to the business. I am actively working on finding and training up a replacement, but it's hard and time-consuming. Don't get your hopes up too much. All my customers are always looking to find an employee to replace someone else. These guys always quit their job before this actually happens, especially when trying to train millennials. As soon as they are trained, they know they are worth more somewhere else. Besides this, it's never a good idea to have your long-term goals depend on others. Imagine this. What would happen to the company if you die tomorrow? Trust me, within 2 weeks a job ad will go out to find your replacement. And they will find it. Maybe he won't be as good as you are, but they'll survive with it anyway. For so many years, I have overrated the value of individuals at a workplace, including myself. Until you start seeing the consequences of someone leaving or even dying, it's hardly noticeable from a performance perspective. Long story short, get out of there. Thank you for sharing your perspective. What is it that to do? You mentioned your customers. Are you a recruiter? I am a consultant running IT programs for different customers, typically for large but sometimes also smaller companies. Assessing replaceability is essentially my job. Yeah, he's complaining all the way to the bank.